Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with your host, Lobo Tigre, the independent speculator. Our victim of the day is Wendell Zerb. He's the CEO of Red Canyon Resources. I've actually known Wendell for a long time from back in his days when he took over Exeter, big gold project down there in Chile called Caspiche. And I think even before then, we ran into each other kicking rocks somewhere in South or North America. But Red Canyon, this is North American copper. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit about what you're doing, Wendell, and then I've got some questions.
Sure. So backing up a little bit, and Lobo, I think where we did actually first meet was when I was working in equity research. I think I was probably at Canaccord at that time, and it would have been on several site visits. But translating, through that period of my life. I ended up, being able to participate in the selling of Exeter. I was looking for new ideas on what I wanted to do in the mineral business. A lot of my experience is everything from grassroots exploration through to mining, and then a lot of analysis of mining companies. But I've always had a heart and an interest in mineral exploration. So I got involved with a group of individuals, all very experienced in the mineral business. And, we really felt that a lot of good quality, big target sort of concepts in mineral exploration just weren't being done effectively. So the sort of parent or umbrella company that sits in and around Red Canyon is a company called the Newquest Capital Group. And again, the concept behind that, which translates perfectly into Red Canyon, is that, we're looking for big concept, big tier one, call it, styles of deposits worldwide, geographically focused to geopolitically safe areas. And we just try to use the best geoscience possible to make discoveries. So Red Canyon falls into that category. We started this company about 5 years ago, started from scratch. Again, the concept here was look for big tier one copper projects in North America. So we're focusing on the best belts we feel are in North America. I've built a team of what I think are the top-notch geoscientists in the world, and then we use other third-party geoscientists to help us. And we've assembled 8 100% owned copper projects, again sourced by our team, and we're working through the development and the exploration phases of those project areas. Without getting too far ahead, we think we've made a discovery at our Kendall project in west central British Columbia. And we plan to continue on that pathway to make big discoveries.
Okay, well, let's come back to that. I do have questions about that, but actually I was going to ask about Newquest Capital. So what I'm hearing from you is, especially with the word capital in there, I was thinking that this, like Oxygen Capital or one of these umbrella groups, that this would bring access to capital, the know-how and the savvy there and your background. But what I'm hearing is it's actually technical expertise too. Depth of team is what I'm hearing from you. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's 4 principles of Newquest Capital, and then we have some additional support within the group. The main focus again is the idea generation to build these concepts. We put in our own capital to grow the idea, and then we start to bring in third-party capital as the concept grows. And in some cases, those private companies remain private. And in some cases, we think that we need more capital to grow the idea, to build it. And those are the ones that we push to the public realm. So out of the 6 companies we currently have under the group, 3 of them are public and 3 of them are private. Another one is actually going public. All independent, separate management teams. So there's a little bit of crossover of people. But for instance, for me, I am at least 80% Red Canyon. I mean, it's a big, strong focus. And
all right, so it's your baby. But actually, let me drill on that for a second. You made the switch from analyst to CEO. and now you've got a new company. So this isn't new, but if you don't mind, tell me a little bit like, why did you do that? I was surprised actually when you took on Exeter. You know, personally, as an analyst or evil scum of the earth newsletter writer, I'm not in the least bit tempted to play with big yellow trucks. That's so much work. Why did you
Yeah.
do that?
Well, it was an interesting time for me. I had made a decision to leave capital markets. I had a great career in capital markets for 17 years, but sometimes it's just that time. So I chose to leave, and I was actually looking for a lot of different opportunities on what I might do. I'm, it's kind of sad to say, I almost went to banking, and then I decided that, you know what, no, I don't want to do this. And this opportunity came to me to go and run Exeter Resource Corp. And, as a little bit of background, it was a very large copper gold system in Chile, in the Maricunga, high altitude. But I always have had this interest in, first of all, cycles in the business. And to me, always big assets, with the right kind of grade profile eventually get taken over. So I felt that there was things that could be done at Caspice from an engineering standpoint to show it in a better light. We went through all of that, and I was fortunate that those ideas came together and we were able to sell it. So my whole idea going into what you're talking about was just this belief of big assets and the ability to eventually create value out of that.
All right. So flash forward to today. I see that you have, I mean, size is clearly the prime directive here, the targets that you're picking, the kind of assets that you're picking up. But I got to say, I came to the point in the presentation where we talked about the discovery at Kendall, and it's like, okay, there's a drill hole with 0.1, I mean, kind of at depth. I mean, basically, we've got an anomaly here, and anomalies are kind of like armpits, right? Everybody's got one. So why is this
Right.
so exciting? I mean, okay, the footprint's big, but there's a lot of low-grade copper in BC. Why are you excited about this particular discovery, or why should a potential investor, believe that this one's going to run?
Right. And that is an absolutely fair question. And, I would do exactly the same thing, and I might actually feel the same way if I'm sitting on the outside. But what I can tell you, first of all, is that, when we first went into the Kendall area and we staked this ground, it was wide open. It never had a drill hole in it. But it's got this enormous alteration footprint that people didn't recognize in the past with anomalous copper in it. And as we went through all the background to bring us to those first 5 drill holes last year, and one of them which you're referencing, we came to the conclusion that this big alteration footprint is actually in the porphyry system. So it's not even in the upper lithocap area. So it's even a larger porphyry system than we first thought. But going back to your point, low grade, absolutely. We are in a low grade part of this very large porphyry system. But the conclusions, not just by our own team, but by third parties that we get involved, is that the general field is we're at the right sort of horizontal level of where you want to look within the porphyry system. And, what we keep on describing is we put 5 drill holes into a polygon area. Every one hit massive alteration, copper mineralization throughout, 7 different vein generations, vein sets, multiple time periods of those vein sets. And when you translate that to still having 5 times that space that's still available and looking at other big copper moly, copper gold systems, we just feel that the system is so large, it's very, very likely that we're just have to find the better, higher grade component of it. The other thing that we haven't touched on that makes it very compelling for myself and everybody else who's closely tied to this project is the infrastructure is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we are right outside of Terrace, BC. There's port facilities, there's road, rail, power at 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And, when you're looking for big porphyry systems and you have to, you know, truck concentrates and have that infrastructure in place, you know, you couldn't have better infrastructure. So yes, we are in a low grade part. We've tested a low grade part, but it's only 5 drill holes in a very, very large system.
All right. So, and there's multiple pulses you've already said. So potentially is a higher grade pulse somewhere you haven't tested yet. Okay, I get the idea. I had another question though. I'm looking at the slide where it shows where you put the drill holes. It looks like it's in a fairly steep little valley there. Is that just that one area? And does the overall footprint extend far beyond that valley, or is that valley pretty much where we're exploring? Because, you know, obviously if you find something at the bottom of the valley, you know, the farther the pit goes, the more mountain you're moving.
Yeah, again, great points. So the geochemical footprint is actually very large. It trends, you know, much further to the east, and we haven't even explored out towards the east. So the big concentration for us is sort of centered around the Kendall drainage that you're actually speaking of. But those pictures again are somewhat deceiving because as you push towards the south, there's lots of room there that yes, there's probably some strip ratio, but that strip ratio is going to be mitigated by the size of what you run into. Really early days for us on exactly knowing what that could translate to, but our general feeling is that it still could be modest strips depending on how the configuration comes together.
Wait, I mean, yeah, I mean, if lithologically you're down in the porphyry and all that other stuff on top is gone, then stepping out sideways and hoping to find higher grades makes perfect sense. And if that puts you on the other side of a mountain and maybe there's low grade in the mountain, then your pre-strip becomes end of mine life processing material, low grade stockpile for later. But you still have to find that sweet spot. So
yeah, and that's exactly it. We have to find that, and we haven't yet.
Where are we at in the process? Do we have soils over the whole thing and geophysics, or how? I mean, I've seen that you're planning to drill again this year. So how are you targeting those holes?
Yeah, again, excellent question. So for us, when we stepped into this project, we did accumulate some historic soil database, rock database. But what we did is we went in and did a detailed lithogeochemical program, which went all through the drainages and all the surrounding area to really look at the rock geochemistry. And again, more and more understanding of these porphyry systems has come together in the last decade. So you can take that lithogeochemical work and it really can sort of vector you into where you actually sit in the porphyry system. So that work was done for us to target those first additional drill holes, but that same lithogeochemical profile continues further to the south. What we want to do is there's a few areas that haven't had the additional chemistry that we're going to do here in early spring. We're going to fill in all that geochemistry again to better vector us into, the higher moly areas as well as the higher gold to really try to use chemistry first. We're also planning to do a larger airborne survey, probably VTEM, to mostly chart geology and structures at depth. And we're also still considering some sort of IP. We've stayed away from the IP largely because the system is so strong in this pyritic halo that we just felt that it was just going to give us a massive chargeable feature, and that's often what you're using it for in the first place. So there's quite a few different vectoring tools that we'll use prior to drilling, and once that's all in place, we plan to drill in later summer this year.
All right, and what's the budget for that?
Current budget that we have is about 1.25 million Canadian dollars for Kendall itself. And as a junior company, we always have a little bit of flexibility depending on where markets are and where capital comes from, so to speak.
And how much money do you have in the bank?
Right now, we're actually raising capital right now. So in the bank today, we're at about $600,000, and I'm currently raising $2 million. That's set to close here very shortly.
All right. Well, since you're on the subject, go ahead. Is there any flow through component there, or are any warrants there for non-Canadian taxpayers?
So, so as of today, the hard dollars that we're currently working on, it's a 16-cent unit with a half warrant at 24 cents. Yes, flow through is being considered. What we have done in the past for flow through has largely been charity flow through, where you have a back end buyer. It's much nicer for the issuer if you can do that kind of flow through. But again, in Canada here, we have critical metals that actually gives us even a bonus on the flow through component. And in some cases, last year we spent, I think it was 1.6 times using charity flow through capital. So we are planning to explore that on the close of the hard dollar financing, and my anticipation would be that we'd be looking for in the order of $1 million in flow through.
All right. And sorry, how long were the warrants good for?
Warrants are 2-year warrants, no accelerator.
All right. Well, so for those interested, I'm sure there's a contact number on the website. Down in Scraper Springs seems to be the top priority on the US side. Is that right? And are we doing anything on the US side this year, or has the new chief executive scared you off any as a Canadian, or where are we at there? Let's not get into the politics.
All
Are you
right.
working on your US projects this year, and what's the plan there?
Sure, and yeah, the political situation, there's some good and there's some bad that's come into that. But we're very keen on what we're doing in the Western U.S. And what I didn't mention was Red Canyon has a big advantage to be able to work in 2 different jurisdictions, because our partnership with a Reno team and led by Caleb Stroop allows us to have those 2 geographical focuses. So going into your question, yes, we are planning to do some work. Kendall is the priority project. We think that Kendall, or sorry, Scraper Springs is the priority project. We think that Scraper has a phenomenal chance to be actually a tier 1 copper system. Sits at the north end of the Carlin Trend. It was previously looked at for Carlin style mineralization, but all the work that we've done over the last 3 years has shown that we're into a big base of lithocap environment. We've got all the right sort of surface components you'd look for geochemically. And then from a geophysical standpoint, we've done, the standards, the gravity, the magnetics, the IP, and everything stands out to show that it looks like we've got a massive tier 1 target. The work program that we completed at the end of last year has led us now to believe that we're ready to drill this. I think it's safe to say we have not budgeted today what that program is going to be, and it's in part to the fact that, as a junior company, we're always looking at opportunities and how those opportunities, might be shared with larger companies. So we have discussions in place to review options on how capital gets spent at Scraper Springs, and we're just not committing at this point in time to that program until we've sort of looked at all those options.
That was also a question later on my list. You have all these 100% owned projects. You can, it's early stage exploration. You can really dilute shareholders a lot, self-funding all of that. Is there any thought towards making, going the prospect generator route, or if you really love Kendall so much, hold on it yourself and maybe joint venture the other ones, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, all of our companies work under what we call this hybrid model. We're not a prospect generator, but we also are not going to risk all of our capital on everything. We felt more comfortable spending dollars in BC because of the attractiveness of being able to use especially charity flow through to raise that capital and test projects. And you know, going back to original comments, yeah, the exchange rate has been a little bit more challenging for us in the last several months. So we would like to explore partnerships, and again, you can look amongst the other companies that are under the umbrella of Newquest Capital. We've done some fantastic third-party earn-in deals with major mining companies, and we have great communication with those different parties. So yes, we are exploring those options, and we are happy to enter into what we think are good option agreements that give shareholders, you know, still upside at the tail end of that earn-in agreement.
Okay, but so for now, we haven't budgeted anything on the US side. We want to do work, but we're going to wait and see how it goes. Is that right?
That's right.
So the budget is just the Kendall budget, which you have half in hand and are looking, you know, you don't want to be, you know, running dry. So you're raising more money than you need for that. Any other deliverables or any other work to be done this year that you want to highlight?
So we have another project in British Columbia that is disclosed, but we haven't really just talked a lot about it. You know, we'll talk about it more. It's called our Enzana portfolio. We plan to do a fair bit of work on that project area. It's earlier stage for large components of it, but there's two areas that we think we could set up to be ready for drilling as early as this fall. It's a typical alkalic copper gold setting. It's in the Cornelia trend. It's you know, it's the type of thing that has, you know, typically the higher grade copper gold pencil porphyry style systems, and we're very excited about it. But it's sitting in the background now, typical of you know, us working projects to build them to, you know, the right level that we can communicate it in more detail.
So maybe more surface work there, you know.
Yeah, we've got additional surface work. We've got additional areas to prospect that have some interesting regional geochemistry. There's some magnetic work that we want to still do to highlight it better. So that is the regional part of the project area, and then there's some specific areas that have had previous drilling done on them that we just think didn't follow up correctly or in enough detail to understand the system.
Okay, then. So back to Kendall, you said that you know, the target that you have now extends further to the south. So I assume that's a target for testing, but you're going to do more work before you drill. Is there any one screaming target right now that you wished you had drilled last year, or is it still figuring that out?
Yeah, no, when I say that, you know, we want to go back and do some additional geochemical work to tie things in, and we want to do the geophysics. This is all work to set ourselves up to just, you know, make sure that the next drill program is targeting the best part of the system. You know, we have a good feel for where several of the drill holes are going to go into. It's not going to change with anything we do right now, and we're really confident about that part of the system. I can also say that the work that we're actually going to do hopefully expands to other target areas. You know, the geoscience that's behind this, you know, there's this very strong feeling that because of the size of the system that we're dealing with, there's probably multiple centers. And I mean, again, you can see this in a lot of big porphyry systems around the world. You know, one that comes to mind is Rico Dig that Barrick's working on, multiple centers. And you know, that's important for us to try to hone into, you know, one of these centers and then eventually into whatever is there.
Okay, fair enough. I don't need to go too far down there, but just, you know, if it's the porphyry exposed because the top's been eroded off, wouldn't there be like some, if not a kill zone and Goslin's all over the place, but maybe wouldn't there be some visible signs of where you have the more intense mineralization at surface? I mean, not topo, I'm just talking about, what's left of that system at surface. Wouldn't it show?
So it does show. I mean, these drainages that we try to convey within our presentations, that's where you get the rock exposure. And then when you also look at, I mean, in our presentation we show an ortho photo, and there's tree cover over the other areas that aren't exposed within these incised drainages. So within those drainages, we have strong geochemical signatures, and we have rocks that have copper and moly in them. But they're only cutting a percentage of that area as you go from the west to south from where we drilled. And again, these are large areas. And we want to try to just hone into the best part of those by doing additional geochemistry.
Okay, well, I think I've got the story. It's fairly focused for this year. I see what your plan there. Don't think I have any other questions at the moment, other than the one that I always ask everybody, and that's the skin of the game question. If you want me or my audience to put our hard-earned money into what you're working on, Wendell, I got to ask, how much of your own have you put in?
Okay, well, again, this company started 5 years ago. We started it from scratch. I have participated from scratch, ran the company for 2 years without drawing any kind of salaries. I think right now, pre going to independent shareholders, I got 3 million shares. I think the average cost of that is probably 5 cents. And then in every financing, I've participated, increasing my position from 10-cent rounds, 2 different rounds at 22 cents. My family's significantly participating at 16 cents. So I'm not quite sure how we can work out the exact average cost, but probably, my average cost today is probably 7-8 cents on my shares. I will never sell a share until there's a big liquidity event. And
you heard it first here. We'll hold you to that promise.
You can hold me to that, and I've got a track record and never sold a share ever at Exeter. And my, again, I'm in this. I'm obviously want to do well for myself. I want to make discoveries, but I am dedicated to making this work, not just for myself, but for everybody I get involved.
All right. Well, I've asked some fairly pointed questions here, so I'll let you have the last word. If there's anything else you want to make sure that our audience takes away from this interview, go ahead.
I think it's a simple story for those interested in, true dedicated copper exploration in North America. I mean, we are in the best belts in North America to make copper discoveries. We make a strong point of having excellent infrastructure. So if we make a discovery, it goes to the top of the list for a development. We only want projects that major mining companies are interested in, because our plan is to make discoveries, develop, and sell. And again, if you look at our technical team, we are geoscience focused, and again, dedicated to just making discoveries and creating shareholder value. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good luck with it, and keep us posted.
Thank you, Lobo.
Thank you for watching this edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. If you enjoyed or found value in what you just saw, and you're watching this on any sort of social media, please do hit the like button and the share link. Send this on to anybody you think might be interested. That helps us out a lot. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button as well. The number of subscribers helps us get more valuable content to you as well. On the subject of subscribing, I'll quickly say that if you're not a subscriber to our free weekly Speculators Digest, I encourage you to sign up. I promise if you do, we will not send you a flood of daily advertisements. You get one free weekly digest with original research not published anywhere else. Check it out at independentspeculator.com. Thank you and have a great day.